Hey everyone, my name is Keely and I'm the owner and creator here at Soy & Shay, and thank you so much for joining me for another soap making video. Now for a while I've been thinking about adding a Tradies Mechanical Gardener's soap into my range, and on a recent market weekend I was asked by about 3 or 4 guys if I actually make a Tradies soap, so I thought it was about time that I got my idea from off paper and into a soap mould. The idea behind a Tradies Mechanical Gardener's soap is that they are generally full of lots of exfoliating goodness to help remove the dirt and grime from off the hands when you're cleaning them, but I also wanted my soap to not feel that drying sort of effect that sort of soap can leave, and so I am going to also pack it full of clays and some buttermilk powder as well. Let's go and see how I make my Tradies soap. Let's get this soap started then. It is going to be kept very, very simple, just one colour. The focus on this soap is the exfoliants because that is what we want to actually do all of the cleaning. So I'm pretty much going to add all of my ingredients into my oil, pour the lye water in, and then I'm going to pour into the mould. The first thing I'm going to put in is some buttermilk powder, and I'm actually going to put this through my sieve because I do have some lumps and clumps in this one, so we want this to be a nice fine powder in the oils so that it actually blends in properly. So we'll get that all put through. So since I've started using the milks in my soap batter, I've really loved the feel that the milks have given, how moisturizing and creamy the lather actually comes out. So the next thing I am going to add in is my clay, and today I am choosing to use some Fuller's Earth clay. I almost added in some kaolin clay, but I had this Fuller's Earth clay for another project, and really I ended up ordering a big bag because it was more economical, but for this other project I really don't need much. So I thought I'd do a bit more research into this Fuller's clay, and I was going to add this in instead. This particular clay has been used for many things. It is meant to be very highly absorbent, so they use it in things like kitty litter and for oil spills. Now I know that doesn't sound particularly good for when you're actually putting it into a cosmetic product, but it's absorbency to absorb oils and things like that, which is the reason I am putting it in here, so that it actually absorbs all the oils and dirt from off the hands when you're using it. Other things I found, it's used as a skin decontaminant by the military, so when they get chemicals and things on their skin, they supposedly use this Fuller's Earth clay to be able to pull those toxins from off the skin. In terms of using it in cosmetics, it does say people use this in soap. It's meant to improve the skin tone. I mean, this is going into soap rather than a lotion, so that's probably not going to really very much so apply here, but it is meant to be very exfoliating as well as skin softening, so I think that will actually really add to the soap, having that skin softening sort of quality to it. So we've got our Fuller's Earth and we've got our milk in there. Now I'm going to add in our sort of rougher exfoliants. I have got some ground up poppy seeds, so I'm just going to dump those straight in. I am also using some apricot kernel. I was going to put walnut shell in, but then I thought if someone's got a nut allergy, I'd be better off with the apricot kernel. And then my favourite exfoliant is some pumice. I love pumice in this ground up state. It's nice and exfoliating, but it's a gentle exfoliator. When it comes to things like foot scrubs, I really like the pumice because it's not so scratchy, and I don't like things like that on my feet, so I really like the pumice, and I think that's going to add a really nice, gentle, yet really good exfoliating effect into the soap. Now the other thing I am going to add in here while I am at it is I'm going to add in my colour, and I have some sea mist here, so I'm going to add about that sort of much. We'll see what happens because those exfoliants are going to turn it into a bit of a murky colour, so I may need some more of that colour. First thing I'm going to do is mix in my all that goodie that we've just put into the oil, and just to make sure it's well incorporated, and then I'm going to pour my lye water in here, and then I'll add the fragrance. Alright, so so I've mixed that to a point, and what I'm now going to do is add in my fragrance oil. This was the thing that was really stumping me about making this soap, was what to use. So I have settled on eucalyptus and peppermint because I figured that is a really nice smell that both mechanics, gardeners and tradies would like. So I'm going to put that in there, we're going to mix it up, and then we'll get to pouring into the mold. Okay, so I'm going to use my usual mold here, but when it comes time to cutting this, I am going to cut it slightly different. This is smelling so good. I am loving it. I'm also very surprised. I was expecting this to actually really quicken up and accelerate on me because of all of those sort of exfoliating goodness in there. But I can see that this has remained lovely and fluid, giving me a really nice top on here, which is excellent. And so I think next time I may even be able to do a little bit of a swirl in here just to give it a little bit of fancy. We'll see what it looks like once I have got this one all poured. Now, when I actually calculated how much oil I needed to go into this mold to fill it up, I calculated how much of the exfoliants I was going to be adding in here, and I took that off the weight of the total soap once cured, and then worked out how much oil I needed, so we didn't end up with too much leftover. In fact, I'm going to end up with no leftover, so that was very well calculated. So as I said, this is a very, very simple bar of soap. That is all I am doing. I'm going to give that a quick spray with some rubbing alcohol. I'm now going to go and put that into my little resting place, which is just on top of my stovetop. I'll come back and I'll show you how I'm going to cut this one tomorrow. I am now ready to cut open my Tradies soap, and as I said, I'm going to cut this one a little bit differently. It is smelling so good. It is nice and fresh and clean, which is just absolutely perfect for when you are wanting to clean all that dirt and grime. I am going to put this through my slab splitter, and I'm actually going to cut this bar in half. Well, it's going to be a little bit under half. And there goes my dog barking at somebody. We're almost through. That's that piece done. So get this top one off here. It's very plain and simple on the inside, but as I said, this is all about the exfoliants. So now I have my two pieces actually done. It's now time to cut these down into smaller, more manageable sized pieces of soap. Right, so to do that, I have got my single bar cutter because I want to make these quite a chunky bar. I love the size and shape of my other soap, but when it comes to being a Tradies soap, I want it to be more of a rectangular, I don't know, squarish style of shape. You'll see once I get this cut, because I think it'll be a bit easier to roll through the hands and get all that scrubby sort of goodness out of it. So that is what my Tradies soap is going to be cut like. So they should be able to roll it around in their hands, get a really good scrub from off of that one. So let's get this one done as well. And I'm really liking the sort of size of that bar there. I think it is perfect for Tradies hands. And this mix, this eucalyptus and peppermint oil, oh, it smells so good, clean and fresh. So I think that was just the perfect one to add to this one. So these are all going to get pretty much cut the same sort of way. What I'll do is just leave these on the side to dry out for a couple of days, and then I will come back and I will show you how I'm going to clean up and stamp these soaps. So let's get these Tradies soaps all cleaned up. Even though this is a Tradies soap and it's going to be, you know, the purpose of exfoliating, I don't like these really sharp edges that you get when you first start a soap. So all I do is I take a vegetable peeler. I really like this one, but you can use any type that you peel veggies with. And I'm simply just going to run it very gently down the edges of all my soaps. Now, I'm not going to go as far as doing all of the ends as well, just those sort of initial corners, and that one is now done. So it is really nice and simple. Now, you can get proper soap making equipment for doing the beveling of the corners of your soap. I have had one and I personally didn't like it. I felt that it took way too much soap off the edges of of the bar and that I was losing too much soap. So I actually just came back to using my good old little vegetable peeler. I also found it a lot quicker to use than the actual equipment that you can buy. But with all of these peels, there's several things that I do depending on the type of soap that I've made. I have collected all of my scraps that I get from doing this, and I've been keeping them in a big bag ready to do a confetti style soap. But it does depend upon the type of soap that I am making. So with this particular one, I won't keep these scraps in that bag because of the exfoliants that are in here. Even though technically by Australian labelling laws, I wouldn't need to list some of these ingredients on the label because it's in less than 1% and isn't actually a real integral part to the soap. Like, it's just in the tiniest amount in the scrap. I feel that if people have got allergies, they have the right to know if a particular ingredient is in the soap. And if you start saving all these soap scraps from every different soap, you could potentially end up with this ingredients list label that is much bigger than what your label can hold, and probably too big for the soap as well. So if you were, you know, for this one, I'd be needing to list in the apricot kernel, the pumice, and all the rest of it, and the poppy seeds. And then if you've put soap scraps in that have milk powders, you need to be listing them, especially for those that do have those sort of allergies. So any soap that I make that doesn't have just my standard recipe and has all these extra goodies, I don't put these into my soap scrap bag. Instead, what I'll end up doing is squishing this all together, and I will use it as a sample for myself, a bit like how I've rolled this one up into a ball. And that's just something that I then keep over on my my sink, so that I can actually have some soaps to use as well. So I'm going to finish getting all the edges of these beveled off, and then I am going to stamp them. So now that I have got all of these nicely beveled off and they are looking all nice on the edges, I am going to lay these out on my side here. And the reason I do it this way, I find it easier to actually stamp my soaps if I have laid them all out nicely like this. But also, once I finish stamping them, that's the time when I start taking photos for the YouTube channel. So I always get them to this sort of stage, take my photos, and then head them off to the curing rack. So I have got my soap stamp here. It is from BB Collection. I've had this one for a number of years now, and it stamps really well each and every time. I'm just going to line it up on my soap. I like to use a mallet, and I'm just going to give it a couple of taps. And there it is. Alright, so normally I would leave my soaps to sit for at least 4 hours before attempting to clean them up and stamp them. And I only do that when I'm actually in a rush to get them out and onto the curing rack and get my space cleared. Otherwise, if I can, I like to leave them for a couple of days before I stamp. And that's that the soaps are a little bit harder, and the stamp doesn't then actually leave any unwanted marks actually in the soap. And I like to use the mallet because I found that I get a much cleaner impression than if I was to actually just try and push it in to the soap without that extra force of the mallet. So I'm going to finish getting all of these ones stamped up, then I'm going to take the photos for the video, and then I'll go and edit it and pop it up here onto YouTube so you can watch. So I hope you have enjoyed watching how I make my tradies soap. If you did, why not leave me a thumbs up and any comments down below. If you've got any questions, I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Until the next video, I hope you have a great one, and I'll see you then. Bye.